guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "Neighbor Destroyed My Property with a Bulldozer. $300,000 worth of damages. I lived in my house in my quiet little cul-de-sac for almost 8 years and I really wanted to add a second bathroom off my master bedroom. My wife was having health issues that made it hard for her to walk to the original bathroom in the house, plus this was a great time for me to design a shower that would work for her condition. My neighbor, his name was Greg, had recently passed away in an accident and his son, Keith, took over his house and other effects. At first, Keith seemed like a nice guy, maybe lacking a little in the personability department, but he was young, maybe in his late 20s or early 30s. He also liked to party and always seemed to have a lot going on over there, different cars in and out and all kinds of people. I tried to mind my own business and not think too much of it, until he started leaving trash on our property line. Granted, these lines were pretty close and shared a privacy fence, where Greg and I had always kept our trash cans. Keith, on the other hand, just uses all the trash cans instead of only his own and stacks them up high and makes it impossible for me to use them. Plus, garbage was spilling out everywhere and animals were coming and making more of a mess of things. One day, I came outside to throw away some things and ran into Keith. I had met him several times prior, even before Greg passed away. I attempted to discuss the trash can situation with him, but he honestly didn't appear to be sober. His demeanor was strange, he was swaying slightly and his pupils were dilated. He did at least acknowledge me and said that he would try to remember next time and walked back into his house, which had been incredibly unkept and filthy since he moved into it. Not that Greg was super clean, but he at least would make it look presentable and kept his front flower beds looking nice. A month or so passed and Keith continued to use our trash cans still, and had even taken to letting his friend park in between both of our driveways. This became a problem one day when I had my contractor and his workers over at the house to prepare the process of building the new bathroom. A cement truck was there to lay the concrete foundation for our add-on, but they couldn't get far enough into our driveway because one of Keith's friends was parked halfway in our driveway that day. I went over to his house and knocked on the door, to which a very rough-looking woman in old baggy clothes answered. The house reeked and from what I could see past her, was full of trash and God knows what else. Keith came to the door after a moment of the girl yelling for him. He looked like he had just been woken up from some kind of hibernation. Eyes bloodshot, just an old pair of basketball shorts, hair sticking out every which way. I mean, he honestly looked like something out of a cartoon. Keith's patience was thin that morning as he looked outside at my team of workers waiting on him. He then groaned and said that he would have his friend move her car but that he was going to have to look into something. I wasn't sure what he meant by that and didn't bother to think much more about it. The woman moved her car and I carried on with my day and plans. It was the end of the week when the contractor was framing everything and progress was moving along smoothly. Then I got an aggressive knock at the door. It was Keith. He looked a little pissed, which he always did to me anyway, but this time it was different. "We need to talk about whatever it is you are doing over here." He waved his hand towards the construction going on. "What about it?" I was confused about what there was for us to talk about, then I remembered his offhand comment the other day. "Is there something wrong?" Keith scoffs at me, like I'm some kind of fool. "Yeah, you're building onto my property." I couldn't help but laugh, which clearly pisses him off even more. The property line ends about a foot on the other side of the privacy fence. When I built the fence, I actually gave your dad that extra room on his side. He doesn't like this answer and says that I'm lying and his father always told him the opposite. I knew Greg for years and highly doubted that he would have told him that. Keith is most likely remembering it wrong. I explain that this is the truth of it and that if he doesn't like it he can pay for a land surveyor to come out and tell him otherwise. My contractor and I had already done all of this to ensure that we were staying within the property. Unfortunately, Keith is not the sharpest tool in the shed, nor can he take any kind of criticism, so this is a big deal to him. Keith started breathing heavily from his nose, his face flushing. I could smell the liquor on him from the night before. "You'll see, old man," was all he said, and he stormed off. Which was a little unnerving. I don't trust this guy and he seems unhinged most of the time to begin with. Another week passes and I don't see or hear much from Keith, thank God. My contractor did mention though that he had come out and talked with him the other day, stating something about how I had lied about the property line and he wanted to know how he could sue me. I don't know what he was expecting to accomplish talking with my contractor about this, but he didn't get very far with the conversation. I guess I should mention one very important part of this story. Greg was a guy who owned a construction company. He had a large garage in the very back of his yard that had a few smaller bulldozers and backhoes. I was surprised to find out that Keith hadn't sold them yet. Surely, they would sell for a lot of money. Anyway, Keith approached me with an attitude of aggression again not long after he spoke with my contractor. He stormed up while I was bringing in groceries and said that he had a bone to pick with me. I was respectful and asked him what the problem was. He then said that he found the deed and it told him that I couldn't build past a certain point, which I was violating. I told him that I wanted to see whatever paper he had that said this, as I wanted to be a good neighbor. He then said that he didn't have it, which told me that he was lying. I knew he was all ready but I wanted to be sure. I then proceeded to tell him that if he had any issues that he would need to go through the steps of proving it in court. I was tired and sick of his shit at this point and just wanted him to leave me alone. This statement about the word, court, caused him to fly off the handle. He started using every curse word imaginable and even picked up a few rocks and other objects and threw them in various places in a state of rage. He made threats towards me, my wife and house and said that I would regret ever talking to him. I wasn't afraid, but took my groceries inside to avoid witnessing his fit any further. The next morning, very early in the morning, I woke up to a strange sound. It was as if there was heavy machinery right outside my bedroom. Then a world-shaking crash that about gave me and my wife a heart attack, breaks through where the bathroom is being built and plastic is the only thing that is separating us. All I see is the early morning light shining through and a giant yellow bulldozer ripping the entire new bathroom from the side of our house. The sound of the machinery and the crash was deafening and seemed like a dream. After a moment of shock, I quickly called 911. I run outside in my underwear, not even caring about who sees me. That's when I confirm my suspicions. It was Keith in the bulldozer, decimating the poor half-finished master bath for my lovely wife, spreading it all over my yard. He also took out the privacy fence and smashed all the trash cans, even crushing part of the second car I had in my driveway. It took the cops showing up before he stopped driving the bulldozer all over both of our properties, even damaging the neighbor's boat on the other side of him. He basically went on a rampage and demolished half his back porch, my new bathroom, car, fence and trash cans, plus his friend's car and neighbor's old pontoon. They had to threaten to shoot him before he would get out of the cab, where they tackled him as soon as he touched the ground. Needless to say, Keith was in a lot of trouble. He ended up selling the house to pay back all the money he owed in damages, which was pretty substantial as you can imagine. I think between what he did to all three properties, he owned almost $300,000 in damages. He did end up admitting, which I already knew, that he was on drugs and alcohol when he decided to go on his smashing spree. He also wrote me and my wife a letter of apology after he sobered up. The next story is titled, "Any lawyers here? Question on wording in the covenants on fencing, would love some advice please. Recently moved into a small neighborhood. The neighbors have been very welcoming, and it is a great place so far. We did not realize they do not allow fences. I spoke with the president, and he said that we can have a vote to change the rulings. However, before that happened, I was reading through the covenants. We are looking to put in a small fence in a rectangle right around our backyard, safety purposes for our dog. Both neighbors have no problem with it. We are also tucked down off the street where you basically cannot even see our backyard. We own a 5-year-old male Doberman. He is a sweetheart and has never had an issue biting or aggression, but understands to protect his property. We are worried with a fence a child could walk into our yard without realizing. We are looking to match the neighborhood and use the same fencing that is used by neighbors with pools. Here is the wording on the covenants. No fence, hedge, or other continuous obstruction or barrier of like nature shall be erected or maintained unless approved and agreed to by the declarant, or by the executive board. Approval shall not be unreasonably withheld, consistent with preservation of aesthetics within the community, it being the intent of this provision to allow in-ground swimming pools to be fenced for safety reasons. This restriction shall not apply to Lot 30. It also has this. Rules and regulations. The Executive Board shall have the power and authority to adopt, amend, withdraw and publish from time to time such rules and regulations applying the foregoing protective covenants as the Board may deem appropriate under the then existing circumstances of the association. I was told we need a vote, and the Board cannot approve this. However, based on this wording it seems the Board can approve the fence. Also correct me if I am wrong, but I read the with intent to as the reason is for pools but not limited to based on the wording. Do I have anything to work with here with the Board compared to going for a vote where I will need 20 or 30 people to vote yes? Edit. Wow, thank you for all of the great feedback. I am going to go through the proper channels and keep this as civil as possible as we are one of 30 homes and everyone has been very nice to us so far including the 3 board members. I took a lot of the advice and wrote a detailed proposal and submitted it to the Board detailing that covenant section and the misinterpretation of the rule. I will make another edit when I hear back on the ruling. Thank you again and for the award, I will be sure to pay it forward. Edit 2. So, the Board told me they interrupted the covenants as the Board cannot be unreasonable when it comes to in-ground swimming pools as is clearly stated since this is a clear requirement of the township. Told me they do not feel comfortable making decisions on fences on a case-by-case basis since there are 3-year floating positions and there was a vote on fencing around 15 years ago where it ended number 20-8 or something along those lines. This confuses me because isn't that literally their jobs being on the Board? And what does a vote matter if the covenants say they are allowed? Update. Wanted to give an update on my previous post. First, thank you for all the feedback and advice. I was able to get together with the President and Treasurer to discuss the matter on how the covenants describe fences, what is allowed and what is not allowed. As I have said before, they are both very nice guys, who do not want any trouble and hate that this is such a controversy within the community. They explained how the homeowner association has never fined anyone, or denied any request, outside of fences not for pools in the 15+ years it has been in existence. We went back and forth for a few hours and somehow in the process polished off a bottle of bourbon. Well, long story short, we came to a gentleman's agreement. I will in fact be getting my fence come the end of the month. We are still going to hold a vote within the community on how the rule should be judged going forward, but even if the vote is not in the majority for fences, we discussed a few ways to obtain one legally within the homeowner association rules immediately after. I suggested not even having a vote, but they want to have one and hope it is a 2/3 majority so they can make the covenants much more clear-cut. I am making this post one to update everyone who was kind enough to give advice. And second, to let you know sometimes going at the problem the nice route does work. Trying to follow the rules and having a legit conversation with the Board can go a long way, and loopholes within the contract does exist. For example, what technically defines a pool? Body of water 24 inches deep law. Now my homeowner association is 30 people with a 3-year board limit and only 3 people on the board, so your miles may vary. Thank you again. My dog will be quite happy when it's finally installed. Update 2. Stabbed in the back, furious. Wording on fencing in CC and Rs. TLDR. Gentleman's agreement with Board to get a fence with a hot tub or small pond. Fast forward 6 weeks, they changed their mind, and basically spit in my face, denying those conversations happened. Vote happened over those weeks. I didn't think much of my fault, because I was told I was good to go. Furious, never let your guard down. Well, it looks like I was stabbed in the back. Long story short, there was a gentleman's agreement made on September 27th between myself, the President, and the Treasurer. We discussed other ways to get a fence without problem, such as a hot tub or koi pond. We drank some bourbon, and we discussed the situation. They both looked me in the eye and shook my hand telling me not to worry. I even suggested no longer holding the vote on fences in order not to waste any more time and energy, as I didn't want to not piss anyone off and do this the right way. Fast forward to me submitted a hot tub. Well, it was denied, not meeting the aesthetics of the neighborhood. Okay, understand it was an inflatable, but I had it basically under my deck, and it was what we talked about. It was a legit $900 hot tub too. No big deal, professional koi pond, landscaping the works, since anything over 24 inches of water is a pool and requires a fence via the township. Treasurer even brought that up himself the night of September 27th. Even going as far to say, hell, fill the pond in a year or two. Get on a call with the Board to see what's going on, tell them plan on the koi pond. I was informed on the call, that flat out they are anti-fence and will not approve anything that requires a fence from the township outside of a full in-ground pool, and the fence cannot be more than 2 times the diameter of the pool away from it. AKA can't put in a 2x2x2 hole and fence surrounding the yard. I was literally in shock. They went on to tell me half of what was said. They didn't recall and I took the wrong way. I've never felt so disrespected, felt like they both spit in my face. I didn't even know what to say at that point. Rather than get upset and say things I would regret, I thanked them for their time and hung up. Still in disbelief. Well, this is where I blame myself. They did the vote in a very casual way. Vote came back to be 21 no and 9 yes. I didn't even think of the vote at the time as I was planning on getting a hot tub or koi pond now anyway, and it didn't matter to me as I was literally shopping and planning it out. Boy was I wrong. I would have gone door to door and can almost guarantee I would have been able to flip 6 people with all of the proper information on what the vote was about. Not in the casual ask of generic yes and no at the block party / meeting. So that I 100% blame / kicking myself over it. Should have never trusted them, but what can I say? I am a man of my word. You shake my hand, look me in the eye and promise me something, I am going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So now I am screwed and cannot get the fence I wanted. Had the nerve to tell me that now I was that guy. And they spent more time on this in the last 90 days than all 15 years of the homeowner association. Well, newsflash. Tell me to my face you're going to deny anything 6 weeks ago and I get the vote in my favor. Sorry for the rant, but I am furious at the situation and letting my guard down. I want to go and give the guy a piece of my mind. Ask why he said all those things, but realize it's just not worth the time, effort, or energy. I'm not one to hold grudges, but also, they crossed the line. Not sure what my next steps will be. Thanks for listening.